trying to catch those first-place Brewers, and they're about to get going from Miller Park. Let's get it out to the guys calling today's game, Tom Brenneman and CJ Nitkowski.
Kevin, thank you. Thanks to a strong start, the Brewers have maintained their lead in the National League Central since day one. Meanwhile, for the Reds, back at 100% full strength health-wise and trying to gain ground on their division rivals for a second straight night after winning the series opener here last night. And it is a glorious weather night in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We welcome you to Miller Park, the Reds and the Brewers, National League Central Division Baseball. Hi again, everybody. Alongside CJ Nitkowski, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome to Baseball Night in America. Now, these Reds have been in the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. They've been hurt most of this year. Tonight, they get Matt Latos back, and CJ, they feel like they're all the way there health-wise.
And they are all the way there, and Joey Votto a big part of that as well. But Matt Latos expected to provide a big boost to this rotation. The rotation has been pretty good for the Cincinnati Reds, but they have missed the 28 wins that Matt Latos has brought to the table over the last 2 years. This is a team that should be in contention for the division. Now that they are healthy, especially with Matt Latos and Joey Votto, it's time to make a run.
And let's talk about these Brewers. I mean, a huge disappointment a year ago. They win 20 of their first 27 this year. How are they doing it?
Well, they're doing it with some pretty good starting pitching as well, an outstanding bullpen. But how about the emergence of Carlos Gomez in center field? This guy has been spectacular. A top 10 player in Major League Baseball. The last 2 years, specifically, he's been very good. We use the term five-tool player very loosely in baseball, but he is one of the few that is a true five-tool player.
Well, Gomez and the Brewers set to tee it up with the Redlegs for just the 6th time this year. They have 14 more games remaining against one another this season. Ryan Braun and the Brewers hosting Todd Frazier and the Reds. First pitch coming up next on Fox. Surprisingly, on a picture-perfect weather night, the roof is closed for this Saturday 6:15 Central Time start time tonight. Let's take a look at Brian Price, first-year manager of the Cincinnati Reds. His starting lineup: Brought to you by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Moss. Billy Hamilton, the rookie in center. Todd Frazier at third. Joey Votto back healthy again. 4 days coming off the DL. And the Reds are 3-1 with him back in the lineup. Brandon Phillips, Jay Bruce, Ryan Ludwig in the middle. Brian Pena, Zach Cozart, Matt Latos, the latter third. Against the Milwaukee ace, Giovanni Gallardo. 4 up, 4 down. ERA at 3.71. And how about a scouting report from Mr. Nitkowski?
We see the numbers first. The 13 starts at 4-4 record. The ERA a little bit higher than usual. It's been a little bit of a rough stretch recently, and you see those strikeouts coming down and the 11 home runs to go with it. But we talk about repeating adjustments. Giovanni Guerrero had a very rough stretch there for a little while, but his last start was very good. He made a mechanical adjustment. Ron Renicky told us he didn't want to tell us what it was, but he said he made an adjustment. We'll see if he can make it today. And no strikeouts, no problem. He has become more of a contact pitcher over the last few years. That strikeout rate is now at a career low. He pitches to contact, and he does it well.
Well, we are set to go here in Milwaukee. Billy Hamilton, the 23-year-old native of Taylorsville, Mississippi. In his rookie year, they brought him up, of course, last season. A young man who 2 years ago set the all-time professional baseball record, stealing 155 bases in one season. And already Hamilton, 25 of them his first year in the big leagues. Takes up and away ball one. This one underway. Hamilton got off to a terrible start. The Reds the first 9 games of the year. 6 times saw the St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff. And Hamilton had a terrible time getting on base. You take away those first 9-10 days of the season. Missed a couple of games with a hand injury. And he's been nearly a 300 hitter since then.
Well, you have to wonder if there was some pressure on him, basically replacing Shin-Soo Choo, his on-base machine. And for Billy Hamilton, he seems to have made a nice adjustment since that very slow start.
Hamilton tried to bunt his way on his first 2 times up here last night. Once thrown out on a great play by Aramis Ramirez, and bunted the other time right at the first baseman. But he wound up being the hero in the game, breaking a 5-5 tie with a run-scoring single in the Reds' top of the 9th inning. Hamilton did not like that call by Brian O'Nora, the home plate umpire, on the 2-strike pitch. Full count.
I think one of the things we have a tendency to forget is when a guy is highly touted and he comes to the big leagues, we just think he's going to be great right away. Very few guys can actually do what Mike Trout did and what Bryce Harper has done. And for Billy Hamilton, maybe it takes a little bit of a while for him to get adjusted. That is perfectly normal for most players.
That ball driven into deep left center field, and Hamilton is off to the races. And the Brewers get a huge bounce. Look where Hamilton was standing when that ball bounced into the Brewers bullpen. Regarded by most as unquestionably the fastest man in the game today.
You see a fastball right down the middle and a good swing by Billy Hamilton. Understand he's not a pull power guy. He's a guy that has to spray the field, but he actually put a pretty good jolt in that ball the other way. And you know, for him with that speed, you're always thinking a base ahead when you hit that ball. And so as soon as that came off his bat and he knew it was in the gap, he's got to be thinking triple. And like you said, the Brewers catch a big break. That ball bouncing over the wall.
You can watch baseball for a long, long time, and certainly the closest player that would stack up speed-wise in recent memory with Hamilton would be Deion Sanders. Another former Red, of course, also a Giant and an Atlanta Brave.
Deion was my first taste of seeing it up close when I broke into the big leagues with the Cincinnati Reds in 1995. He was a teammate of mine. And you talk about seeing speed. You can watch it on TV all day long, but when you see it in person, it is completely different.
1-1 to the Reds' third baseman Todd Frazier, a .276 batter, 14 home runs, 35 runs batted in. Frazier off to an outstanding start. He's been one of the few Reds that has maintained good health and has maintained good production. Gallardo, a 12-game winner a season ago, took a step back numbers-wise from where he's been in his career. The ERA up over 4. And the team was just 1 game over 500 in his starts overall on the season. And this year, they're just 1 game over 500 in his starts, which is interesting when you're looking at a team, CJ, that is 12 games over the 500 mark.
Well, they've gotten production from other guys in the rotation, so that has certainly been a big part of it. Lohse has done a nice job. They have gotten really good starts out of Peralta. And so the depth of the rotation has kind of allowed this team to overcome maybe not a particular great couple of seasons for Gallardo.
It's a non-productive out there by Frazier. Hamilton will not advance. You know, if you're Ron Renicky and the Brewers, you know how good Yovani Gallardo has been in his career. Look at the National League Central against the Cubs, the Pirates, and formerly the Astros. Great numbers. But the top 2 teams over the last 5 years in the National League Central have been the Cardinals and the Reds, and the numbers not so kind.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you think about the increase of divisional play and what it is like now these days in the game. You're seeing the same guys over and over and over again. And when you're seeing a guy without plus stuff, the more times you see him as a hitter, the more likely you are to get a hit. And certainly those better lineups in St. Louis and Cincinnati have done some nice damage against Gallardo.
Now Joey Votto just off the disabled list. On Tuesday, the Reds lost his first game back. They have won 3 in a row since getting their best hitter back in the lineup. Votto had been on the disabled list since mid-May with a strain in the quad muscle just above his left knee. That was a left knee that required a pair of surgeries back in that 2012 season. Naturally, you're going to keep an eye on Hamilton. 25 stolen bases, has been thrown out just 7 times. He easily stole third base in a game here last night. In fact, he has stolen third 7 times. Bottom fell out of that pitch, 0-2.
Well, you think about it, a lot of good base runners will tell you third base, when you have good speed, is actually easier to steal than second base because you can get a much bigger lead. So you see that breaking ball down in the dirt. Very nice pitch by Gallardo. But I've had lots of base runners tell me that, especially off of left-handed pitching. Stealing third base can be a lot easier for prolific base stealers, so it doesn't surprise me to hear that Billy Hamilton has stolen third so often.
Buster Posey of the Giants is the only catcher to throw out Hamilton stealing third. That was 10 days ago. And wouldn't you know it, on the very next pitch, Todd Frazier hit a home run, and the Reds wound up losing the game by a single run. One and 2 on Joey Votto. Votto, former National League Most Valuable Player, but then had that knee injury when he was off to an unbelievable season in 2012, a season where the Reds won 97 games. Came back late in September that year. And while he played a lot of games last year, virtually every game last year, Votto did not show the same sort of power that he had before the knee surgery.
Well, that's definitely a concern. You know, we talk about hitting with your lower half, and you hear about good power hitters who have a good lower half. If you have knee injuries, leg injuries, hamstring, quad, that can absolutely affect your power.
Hamilton started the inning with a double. Segura coming in behind him, and Gallardo will throw back.
And I know you've probably seen it a bunch this year, but one of the things that Billy Hamilton brings to the table, not just the ability to steal bases and go the extra base, but to distract the pitcher on the mound. And a lot of times you'll see guys make a mistake because they're so worried about a speedster like Billy Hamilton.
Votto swings and misses. So after the leadoff double, a ground out and a strikeout. 2 away in the inning.
You'll see this off-speed pitch down below the zone, and that tells me Joey Votto maybe not feeling right just yet. We don't see a lot of swings and misses from him. We certainly don't see him chase out of the zone. And probably going to take him a little bit longer than the Reds would like to get comfortable again.
Well, the judiciary today, Brian O'Nore, the crew chief, calls the balls and strikes. Doug Eddings at first, Corey Blazer at second, and Marvin Hudson, the umpire, at third. Brandon Phillips had a 2-out run-scoring single in the first inning here last night. Phillips wound up knocking in 2 runs overall. Phillips, a 4-time Gold Glove winning second baseman, seemingly on your highlight shows every night of the week. He got hit by a pitch last year, which derailed one of the great seasons in recent memory by a second baseman. He still wound up knocking in over 100 runs. And then just a few days ago, Phillips, fielding a ground ball, took a funny hop on him, and they were worried that he had broken his finger.
And that certainly would have been a big loss for this team. You talk about what he does in the 4-hole, the defense that he plays. It's incredible to watch this guy over the past few years just continuing to play great defense. That would have been a big loss for this team. You talk about health. That would have been a tough one to swallow.
Fastball high. Now Phillips, a .333 career batter with a couple of home runs against Gallardo. And you wonder here in the first inning, will they give Brandon Phillips a 3-0 green light?
You might want to. You know you're going to get strikes. We know we talked about Gallardo, how often he sits in the zone and how he pitches to contact. Not a lot of swings and misses. With Billy Hamilton, I'm okay with it.
Took that one on the inside corner, 3-1 to Brandon Phillips. Just underway, and great to have you with us. Baseball night in America on Fox. The Brewers as Central Division leaders. Reds picked up a game last night. They're 7 back. And back up through the middle, and it's into center field. A base hit by Phillips will play Billy Hamilton. So Phillips now with 3 runs batted in the first game and 1 at bat of this critical series for his Cincinnati Reds.
Well, he didn't hit it particularly hard. Giovanni Gallardo made a pretty good pitch right here. It's an off-speed pitch kind of in the middle of the zone, but Brandon Phillips hits the top half of the ball. It's a ground ball, but because of the shift, that ball finds a hole, and for the Reds, they're now up 1-0.
Let me ask you about that, CJ. There's more shifting going on in baseball now than ever before, by 3-fold compared to even last year. As Jay Bruce digs in, you'll see a big shift on him. The second baseman playing out in right field. Shortstop playing behind the bag. Strike 1 to Bruce. How do you feel about it?
It's plus and minus for me. There's not one steady answer. I do like moving the second baseman further back, especially in this situation. You have a slower runner. I'd rather give that guy a little bit more range, give him a few more steps, but there is nothing more frustrating than executing a pitch, thinking you got that routine ground ball, and you turn around and you realize that a player who has been out there for 100 years is no longer there. And so there is no perfect answer to defensive shifts. You have to pick your spots. The problem is what are you defending against? Are you going to defend against and shift against your pitcher executing his pitch, or are you going to defend against him missing spots and those guys hitting the balls hard? So for me, it's very difficult. I like the thought of it, but there's no perfect answer. You're going to get times where it's not going to work, and you're going to be really frustrated. There's going to be times it does work, and you're going to be really happy.
1-2 to Jay Bruce, another Red, like Votto and like so many others, that has already spent a lot of time on the disabled list this season. Bruce underwent knee surgery and was back 15 days later. I don't know if I've ever seen that from a baseball player, where you go on the disabled list, the next morning you have knee surgery, and when your time is up 15 days later, you're back in a lineup.
No, absolutely. You don't see that at all, and especially as players start to get a little bit older. Jay Bruce only 27 years old, but the older you get, the more difficult it becomes. And so obviously not a major surgery on that knee.
Tapper down to first, and that'll do it in the Cincinnati first inning, where they score a run. A double by Hamilton, a single by Phillips. Matt Latos takes the ball for the first time this season when we return. Sometimes you got to live Moss. Scooter Gennett now in the leadoff spot. They moved him there earlier in the week. Ryan Braun in the 2-hole for about almost a month. And Jonathan Lucroy behind the plate. Carlos Gomez now in a cleanup spot. Aramis Ramirez healthy again at third. And Chris Davis swinging a hot bat at left. Overbay at first. Segura at short. Gallardo on the mound. Matt Latos came over 2 years ago in a blockbuster deal from San Diego. He's won 28 games over the last 2 years, a 14-game winner last year, CJ, where he was their ace due to an injured Johnny Cueto.
And he stepped up and did a great job. You see those 210 innings. Those are hard to come by, and that is definitely one thing that the Cincinnati Reds missed. How about the scouting report? Welcome back, Matt Latos. You talk about him missing the entire season. The Cincinnati Reds very excited to have him back. They're ready to make a run. They are poised, and this is a guy that they needed to help. And the 1-2 punch. You talk about how well Johnny Cueto is throwing this year. He is at the top of the rotation, but it is nice when you have a second guy that maybe is right there with your ace or even just a step below, especially if you get into the postseason. 1-2 punches become very important. If Matt Latos can repeat last year's success, the Cincinnati Reds will have that.
So Scooter Gennett to lead things off. Early in the year, of course, they had Carlos Gomez in that leadoff spot. That's where he spent all of last year. But they had Aramis Ramirez went down. They had Ryan Braun go on the disabled list. And it was about time Ron Renicky figured to get a productive bat in the middle of the lineup. And that's when Gomez was dropped down to the cleanoff spot. And they have not moved him back even after Braun and Ramirez returned. So Latos, his first pitch here in 2014 is ball 1 to Gennett. Well, you got to believe the butterflies are swirling around in the belly of Latos tonight. Young man's an extraordinary competitor and has really felt like he was healthy enough to have been back for about 10 days now.
And you know that part was frustrating for him because the competitor in him is wanting to get back here, put that big league uniform on again, and help his team. But there should be some butterflies. If you're out there without any butterflies, something is wrong. I don't care if you played this game for 20 years.
Well, now it's time for our Lohse Never Stop Improving pitcher profile. It began for Latos with elbow surgery in October. Nothing major. But then he got to spring training and needed knee surgery. Strained a tendon in that right arm, surgically repaired arm. And then a week ago in a rehab start, he got a cramp in his calf. And the Reds decided, hey, look, you got the cramp in the calf. You didn't hit 100 pitches. We're sending you down for one more rehab start. And Latos was not happy. Lohse never stop improving.
And that's okay. It's okay that he was unhappy because all he's doing is showing his competitive side. Even if it bothered the team a little bit, at the end of the day, that's what they want him to be.
Well, Latos strikes out the first batter he faces in this season. That's all for Gennett. One away in the Brewers' first inning. As Brian Price has been with Matt Latos since Latos came over in the trade the last 4 years. Price, who is regarded as among the top pitching coaches in baseball for a long, long time, took over for Dusty Baker as manager of the Reds.
And you always wonder about managers or former pitching coaches as managers. Bud Black has certainly done a great job in San Diego, and there's a certain type of pitching coach that can make that transition. Guys that are good communicators, get along with everybody on the team. I think Brian Price has done that so far.
So Ryan Braun, the batter. He had one trip on the DL this season. 9 home runs, 33 runs batted in, and carries a .289 batting average. Latos threw that fastball up, and Braun comes up empty.
And that DL stint was an oblique, which we hear a lot about, which you, as a Brewers fan, would probably be very concerned about because sometimes those can linger. And they can certainly bother you, but I think so far for Ryan Braun hasn't bothered him too much. But those don't go away. If you don't take care of them, they'll nag you all year long. It can really affect the hitter.
And there's a strike 3 call. Bottom fell out of that pitch to catch the outside corner. 2 strikeouts for Latos.
This is a picture-perfect slider down and away on an 0-2 count. Just catches the corner and really caught Ryan Braun off guard. A lot of times you're thinking 0-2, a pitcher's going to waste a pitch, throw something out of the strike zone. Instead, Matt Latos went right at Ryan Braun, beautifully located on the outside corner.
You know, you go into a year, and in this case the Brewers, we know about Ryan Braun and the issues he had off the field, suspended for the second half of last year. He's been a great player for him for a long time. You talked about Gomez and, you know, what he has done last year and now again this year. But right now, the best hitter on the Brewers is a guy at the plate, Jonathan Lucroy. Only Troy Tulowitzki, among all National Leaguers, has a higher batting average than Jonathan Lucroy. That ball hit right on the screws, but right at Jay Bruce. A very impressive opening inning in his first start of the year for Matt Latos. By Taco Bell, sometimes you gotta live Moss. There's Bernie's dugout out there high atop Miller Park out in left center field. Of course, anytime a Brewer hits a home run, he comes sliding down the slide there, you see. I've always wanted to go up there and do that. Milt Mason was the original Bernie Brewer. In '73, the official mascot, who celebrated every home run sliding into that huge beer mug. In '84, they took down the Chalet and set their mascot into retirement. And in '93, out of retirement. To the delight of Brewers fans everywhere ever since. I don't know if Bernie's in there drinking or what he's doing during the game.
How often do you hear about a mascot coming out of retirement?
That's right. You know, I always tell myself I want to go down that thing when I come here. And then I look at how high up it is, and I wonder, once you actually sit down to go down the slide and you see that thing overhanging by a couple hundred feet?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
I'll just watch you from here. And how about, I mean, the one at County Stadium was even scarier just because it was held up by scaffolding. I got to get a couple of games in there in my career before that place shut down and said the same thing. I want to go up there, but at the end of the day, not going to happen.
That one ripped into the left field corner off the bat of Ryan Ludwig, trying to turn it into 2, and will easily get in there. Second straight inning in this game. The Reds have started the inning with a 2-base hit. Hamilton in the first, and he scored on a 2-out single by Brandon Phillips.
Good stroke there by Ryan Ludwig. He's kind of unusual in the sense that he's actually better against right-handed pitching instead of left-handed pitching. You would think a right-handed power hitter would just crush lefties, but he's actually much better against righties, and he's not going to miss a fastball like that down the middle. I played with Ryan Ludwig in the minor leagues way back when, gosh, about 2002, 2003 with the Texas Rangers. He's had himself a nice career.
Now to be Brian Pena. When they brought this veteran back up during the offseason, didn't get a lot of ink, not a lot of headlines, but he has turned into be one of the most valuable Reds players with all the injuries around. Pena's played a lot of first base in the absence of Joey Votto, and the Reds trio of catchers, Devin Mesoraco, Brian Pena, now Tucker Barnard, who's in the minor leagues, have hit 12 home runs and knocked in 36 runs. So they've got very good production out of that catcher's position.
And Pena was a guy that they obviously knew that they wanted. They jumped on him early in the offseason. They signed him about the first week of November. In this day and age, you see the offseason get pushed back further and further and guys signing later. But he was absolutely identified as a guy that the Reds wanted, and they didn't wait around.
One and two to Pena.
Good off-speed pitch down. Pena, it's a big swing right there. Trying to hit that ball into the bullpen.
Pena, a switch hitter, has been a better hitter from the left side his entire career, and this year no different. Slow roller deep in the hole at short, and he'll have an infield hit. And once more, you see the shift. That wasn't a case, I don't think, CJ, of trying to keep Ryan Ludwig close. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, this is just kind of bad luck. They're playing Pena to pull, thinking about a hard ground ball at the middle. But when you locate a pitch and you get a weak out, it's a lot of times that's when you're going to see the shift go against you. Because you are more often than not shifting against hard contact and not soft contact. And soft contact is what beat the Milwaukee Brewers right there.
Now Zach Cozart, the Red shortstop, starting to swing the bat for the first time all year long, quite reminiscent of his season last year, where the first 2 months he barely hit over 200. The last 4 months he hit over 300. And Cozart, an 8-game hitting streak, started the 9th inning game-winning rally against Francisco Rodriguez with a single and scored the winning run. One and one. Gallardo is coming off what Jonathan Lucroy said was his best start of the year, and the numbers certainly back it up. 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs in a win over the Pirates, a 1-0 win. But he's already given up as many hits in an inning plus tonight as he gave up during those 7 frames in Pittsburgh 5 days ago. Two and two.
You know, that last start, of course, provides him a lot of confidence after having a really rough run prior to that. In his previous 7-game start, he went 1-4 with an ERA over 6. Things were getting really ugly for Gallardo. To be able to turn that around, to make it that mystery mechanical adjustment that Ron Renicky did not want to tell us about.
Should be a double play ball here. And it is a big one for Gallardo.
Well, Gallardo has seen his ground ball rate go up over the past few years. He's up over 50%, which is a pretty good rate. And a very nice turn here by Jeanette. And just with the doctored order, I would say pitcher's best friend, but not only that, because you're in the 8-hole. Runners on first and second, nobody out. A double play there, and now brings your pitcher up. Big difference playing in the National League that is in American League times like this.
Here is Latos. Career 121 batter. Last year, each of the last 2 years, he's knocked in 4 runs. Boy, this ball in the air to right center field will be caught by Braun, and that's all in the Reds' second inning. Big double play ball induced by Gallardo. 1-0 Cincinnati. The new Lincoln Motor Company, this is where a new conversation begins. Well, you couldn't ask for a more beautiful night. And yet for some reason, the roof is closed.
They teased us. It was open just right before the game started. Got pretty excited, and sure enough, they cranked it up.
All right, our keys to the game, Mr. Nitkowski, brought to you by the Lincoln Motor Company.
Well, for the Cincinnati Reds, they proved me to be prophetic by saying be ready to hit, and they have been. 4 hits through 2 innings so far. We know Gallardo is going to be around the zone. He has been his entire career. And for Milwaukee Brewers being steady on the hill, Ron Renicky told us before the game, I asked him, how are you guys going to win this division? How are you going to stay there? He said it's going to happen on the mound. So not just today from Gallardo, but from that entire rotation and that bullpen. They know they have to get it done through pitching if they want to be there at the end.
And Renicky, acknowledged right away, said, look, I don't see the other teams in the other divisions as often as obviously he sees his own division. But he told us he thought without question that this was the best division in baseball for starting rotations. And it's really hard to argue that when you look at where this Reds team has been over the last number of years. The St. Louis Cardinals and all the talent in that rotation. The Pirates, they're going through some injuries of their own. Garrett Cole just went on the disabled list. And then his own staff, and he said, heck, even the Cubs. He said, you might look at their record and think, well, not a big deal. We should take care of these guys. He said, then you see Jeff Samardzija.
And Jake Arrieta has been a nice reclamation project for them. He's thrown the ball well, and you never know what you're going to get. Certainly out of a guy like Edwin Jackson. He can turn out a good outing on any given night. And so he's absolutely right. This is one of the toughest divisions in all of baseball when you really look at the depth of starting pitching, teams 1 through 5.
There's Carlos Gomez. 1 ball and 1 strike. Broken back into short center field, and Hamilton's speed will run it down. On tonight's game, we are participating in the Home Run Challenge. Tonight, every home run
raises a whopping $14,000 for prostate cancer research. And you can make a pledge if you're able to go online to homerunchallenge.org. Total amount raised so far, $1,233,000. That has been a great program in concert with Major League Baseball for better than a decade. Strike one to Aramis Ramirez, just off the disabled list earlier this week. Homered his first time up, and then hit another big home run a couple of nights ago in New York. Well, you talk about a guy that has just had an outstanding Major League career. Over 1,300 runs batted in. He is tied with Enos Slaughter in that category.
It's a good
One
name to be tied
RBI
with.
behind Roberto Clemente.
Wow. It's incredible. We lose sight of these things sometimes because he's been a guy that maybe hasn't been highly heralded maybe around the league, but certainly has had, like you said, a tremendous career, almost 15 years in the major leagues, and has put up some great numbers along the way.
Ramirez still not nearly at 100% with that hamstring. We saw him last night hit a ground ball that, well, I beg your pardon, on a swing and a miss strikeout where the ball came almost all the way back to the screen, and the Reds catcher was still able to throw him out at first base. But he wants to be in that lineup every day and always has wanted to be in there every day.
Well, you talk about guys with good careers and good numbers. You have to be out there. You have to be a grinder. The guys that take those days off or go on the DL with small injuries don't put up the big numbers like Ramirez has.
Latos wasn't sure whether or not that ball was fouled off or whether it was called a ball. And it is a ball. Then you look at home runs for Aramis Ramirez. 361 of them. That's the same number hit by Jolton Joe DiMaggio. Oh, foul, look out down there. That nearly got former Red star, postseason star Billy Hatcher.
That's two hard foul balls that we've seen into the Reds dugout, which tells you that Ramirez's bat speed is there. And you talked about the home runs that he hit as well since he has been back. Those are fastballs inside that he's turning on, so he's feeling pretty good. The hamstring might not be all the way there, but the bat speed certainly is.
1-2, Latos 2, Ramirez are coming in. They run a fastball at 92 in on his hands. Boy, Latos looks very good so far with all of his stuff.
He does. He looks sharp. He looks confident, filling up the strike zone. And not that that's ever been an issue for him, but anytime you come off the disabled list, getting back to the big leagues, you always wonder how a guy's going to feel. But certainly confidence not an issue for Matt Latos right now.
2-2. And you get a look at Fox tracks. In red, fastballs. In blue, changeups. No breaking balls in this at bat. And that one hooked into left field. That's a good at bat by Aramis Ramirez, capped off by a single. And Latos out there talking to himself, saying, I got to get that pitch down.
Well, that's exactly right. What we saw here was an off-speed pitch that just stayed up just a little bit. But give credit Ramirez here because he fouled off some tough pitches, and he was even fooled on that pitch. But he was able to keep his hands back just enough, get enough lift under that ball to drive it into left field.
One more final stat, and to give you an idea about the career, we've talked about RBIs, we've talked about home runs. That's 2,087 career hits for Ramirez. He just passed Harmon Killebrew.
The hits keep on coming. Those are some big names you're throwing around.
Big names. Hall of Fame, every one of them we just rattled off. Now, Chris Davis came up from the minor leagues last year and gave the Brewers offense a nice jolt. Started very slowly this year, but my oh my has he turned it on ever since. Davis clubbed a home run to to start a game-tying 4-run rally in the 7th inning last night. And he hit it the other way. He has tremendous power.
And Homer Bailey had to be surprised on that one. A fastball away, pretty well located. You're not expecting that ball to be deposited in the seats, especially the other way. That's a sign, like you said, of a strong hitter. Takes what the pitcher gives him, doesn't try to do too much.
You get a look at the numbers and how since mid-May Davis has been knocking a cover off the ball. 1-2. Well, if you're just joining us on this Saturday night, baseball night in America, Reds got on the board in the first inning, a double by Billy Hamilton. He scored on a 2-out single by Brandon Phillips. Matt Latos making his 2014 season debut. 28 wins for Latos over the last 2 years since being traded to Cincinnati. That's a pitch he was looking for against Ramirez, and that's his 3rd strikeout.
Matt Latos, you know that the off-speed stuff is sharp. We're seeing guys fishing at balls that are below the zone. I think there's too many jitters there. I know maybe a little bit, but he looks very comfortable. Everything has been pretty sharp so far for Matt Latos.
Latos has had an incredible amount of experience in relation to his age. Latos just turned 26 years old over the winter. And he has already made 137 major league starts. Tonight, his 138. You saw that winning percentage. He's been as good as anybody, anywhere, the last 2 years. Well, 1 to the first baseman, Lyle Overbid.
Just think if he keeps it up, he's, after this year, 1 more year away from free agency. If he can stay at that pace and only be 28 years old heading into free agency, it could be a very big payday for him.
So we know on Overbay in his 2nd go-round now with the Brewers.
Take that back, he'd be 27
yeah.
into free agency.
Right.
Teams love youth, and they will pay for it.
That they do. Overbay's been sharing time down at first base with Mark Reynolds. 2-0. In the air, left field should end the inning. Ludwig is there, and it will. 2 scoreless frames for Latos. 1-0 Reds. We're back after a word from your local sponsor. for the top half of the third inning here at Miller Park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The division-leading Brewers at 12 games over 500, and a big reason why now in his second year as a Brewer. And well, what a sign he has turned out to be. Kind enough to join us from the Brewers dugout. Kyle Lohse, how are you, young man?
Doing pretty good. How y'all doing?
Doing great. You're off to another good start this year. Pitched a great game the other night. I watched a lot of that game against the Mets.
Thanks. Yeah, it's last year was a little adjustment with the modified spring that I had, and we got it going in the second half, but unfortunately it was a little too late. But we're happy to get off to the start that we are right now, and we're just trying to keep going with it. Thanks.
Lohse, what about that modified spring? You went through the process of what we see now with some free agents, the way the rules have changed. Has that kind of soured you on the new rules of Major League Baseball?
It's made it kind of tough. I think it's raining in here. That's why the roof's closed. Thanks, Reynolds. You guys get Reynolds on TV. He's jealous. Yeah, I think it's it's definitely changed the way some of the free agency has gone. I think it's a different game for some guys, and some guys don't get affected by it who get traded, and it's still an adjustment period. We got to figure out as players how to adjust accordingly.
Meanwhile, 3 balls and no strikes to Billy Hamilton, who led off the game with a double into left center. Jonathan Lucroy going to come out and visit Giovanni Gallardo. Tom, before we talk about you, talk a little bit about Gallardo. I mean, he's been the guy most people consider to be the ace of this staff over the last number of years, his whole career here. And I know he wasn't going so well up until his last start. Did you see anything different he did in his last start?
This game's so funny. Sometimes you could do so much stuff right, and it just doesn't work out for you. I think his stuff's been great. It's just sometimes the results we get aren't what you want, and he's sticking with it. He's working hard, and doing all the things he needs to be doing to be successful. And I think it's just a matter of time. He started off. I think he had a couple of good starts, and then a couple so-so ones, and I truly think he's been throwing the ball pretty consistently. It's just sometimes you don't get those results.
And how has he handled kind of some of that bad luck? It's going to happen. It happens in baseball. We see it all the time. How's he been kind of through the process?
The same guy, day in and day out. We know it's a long season. Certain things are going to happen, and you just got to keep doing the stuff you do and trusting the process, and doing everything right. And he's kept a really good mentality and done the things that he needs to do to keep going out there and being the guy that he has in the past.
Well, he just got into a little bit of trouble and quickly got out of trouble. He walked Billy Hamilton, the last guy on this Reds team you want to walk on 4 pitches, and then Hamilton looked like he was going right away, and they pick him off.
Well, how good does that feel, Kyle? Anytime you have Billy Hamilton on first base, and now you have a couple extra things to think about. How good does it feel to pick a guy like that off?
It's really good to not have to worry about that. Fortunately for me, last time I faced him, he wasn't in the lineup, so I don't have to worry about it. And it is pretty impressive to watch him out there. And last night we got a little taste of it when he's scooting around the bases quickly, and that speed thing. It's always in the back of your mind when they're on base. You got to be cautious, but you don't want to think about them too much, and it just causes havoc out there.
And do you think he does that for guys where they're so worried about him? Not necessarily saying you, but just pitchers in particular, where they got a guy like that, and all of a sudden they're thinking about him too much, and then they end up making a bad pitch and getting hurt.
Yeah,
have you seen that?
It can lead to a big inning quick if you're worried about him, moving around out there on the bases. And this lineup that they got behind them is they got some pop. You can make a mistake real easily trying to rush a pitch to the plate and have a ball leave the yard.
0-2 the count on Todd Frazier. He bounced out to the shortstop Segura his first time up, and that one in the dirt, a ball and 2 strikes. Kyle, for a guy who came over late in spring training last year, so many people around you talk about how you assume such a tremendous leadership role on this Brewers starting rotation. You've got a couple of young guys in that rotation, and now Gallardo's still a young pitcher even though he's been around for a while. I mean, you bring in Garza this year, but talk about why you felt like that was something that you wanted to do and you needed to do for this team as Frazier is out of there on strikes.
I felt like over my career, always hasn't been perfectly rosy. Everything went right. I figured out a lot of things the hard way, and felt like there was some things I could help out with a young Willie Peralta or a Marco Estrada. It doesn't matter. I'm still learning stuff. We got a close, tight-knit group in the rotation, and we're constantly, besides giving each other a hard time throwing water on each other, we're constantly paying attention to the game, trying to help each other out, trying to pick up different things that will make each other be successful. We go out and watch each other's bullpens, and it's something that when I was over in St. Louis, we did. We had Carpenter, Wainwright, myself, Westbrook. We had all these guys that had experience. We were constantly leaning on each other, and I felt like that was something that I could bring with me over here and try to help make us, what we are.
I tell you, a lot of people kind of say team chemistry doesn't mean much. You just kind of spoke to it, the chemistry you guys have even within the rotation.
Yeah,
can you tell people how important that really is?
I think it's real important, especially as a pitcher in the rotation. You want to have, you're not going to win if you don't have strong pitching. It's going to be hard to outscore teams and go about it like that. But I think we got a good group of guys. We all have fun. We're all there for each other. Sometimes you get on each other and it makes it fun. So it's a good group. You need that chemistry. We're together so much during the year that if you don't get along, you can win even with bad chemistry, but it's not as fun as doing it with good one.
Pal, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Good luck to you and the Brewers. Collaborate with Stand Up to Cancer, a groundbreaking initiative created to accelerate innovative cancer research that gets new therapies to patients quickly in order to save lives now. If you'd like more information, we invite you to visit foxsportssupports.com. All right, along with C.J. Nitkowski and our entire Fox Sports crew, we welcome you back to Baseball Night in America. I'm Tom Brenneman. The Reds, who won the series opener here last night, chasing these Brewers in the National League Central. Out to a 1-0 lead as Matt Latos pitches in a big league game for the first time this year tonight. He allowed a one-out single to Aramis Ramirez in the second inning. Not walked a batter in fan 3. Gene Segura with a 1-0 count. And that ball's in the air at Ryan Ludwig. 1 out. You talk about pitching in the National League, and you alluded to it earlier, CJ, but don't tell that to Matt Latos when it comes to Giovanni Gallardo back in his Brewers days, and Latos with San Diego. Gallardo, a home run. He has 12 of them. That's right, 12 home runs in his major league career.
Well, you can rank that up there as one of the worst feelings an opposing pitcher can have. It's bad enough when you give up a hit to a pitcher and your teammates give you a hard time. I've never had a pitcher take me yard. I don't have enough innings in the National League. I'm sure they would have got me sooner or later, but that is a bad feeling when a pitcher takes you deep, especially in San Diego.
No kidding. San Diego and San Francisco, the two most pitcher-friendly ballparks in the National League.
When you're facing a good hitting pitcher, you just have to go at him like he's a good hitter. You can't sit there and say, here's the pitcher. And a lot of times we take a little bit of a deep breath and we think more middle of the plate. You're facing guys like Gallardo, Mike Hampton back in the day. Guys that can swing it, you got to go at them like they're a middle of the lineup hitter in any other order.
I think that's one of the reasons why Latos has gained such tremendous respect for what he has done since leaving pitcher-friendly San Diego and coming to arguably the most hitter-friendly ballpark in Major League Baseball, and that's where he calls home now, Great American Ballpark. Latos has just been extraordinary in that pitcher's park. He is 18-5 pitching in Cincinnati with an ERA of 2.94. And everybody wondered when the trade was made, would he be able to make that kind of adjustment? So far, more than so good. Strike three to Gallardo, and that's four of them for Matt Latos. We take a think ahead. Next week, MLB action beginning with Baseball Night in America on Fox, the Braves and the Nationals. Some will see the Tigers and the Indians, others the Pirates and the Cubbies. And then the Rangers take on Mike Trout and the Angels over on Fox Sports 1. So an MLB doubleheader. Saturday, 7 Eastern on Fox, continues at 10 o'clock Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Now back to the leadoff man and Scooter Gennett. Phillips knocks it down and still got it. Four-time Gold Glove winning Cincinnati second baseman. Able to get it out on a hard hit ball. Reds in front, 1-0 at the end of 3. By Jersey Boys from Warner Brothers Pictures in theaters beginning June 20th. And by T-Mobile. Right along the shores of Lake Michigan. Veterans Park, right off of downtown here in Milwaukee. Oh, what a beautiful day it was in this city here today. Not a cloud in the sky. Temperatures in the mid-70s. Perfect.
Nice place to spend your summers. My father grew up in Wisconsin, so I've spent some time here.
Really?
I don't want to be here in the winter necessarily. Not my destination of choice, but beautiful summers.
Unless you're going to Lambeau Field.
That's right.
If you're going there, it's a whole different ball game. Nothing like a weekend in Green Bay. Of course, in college football, Madison ain't all bad either. Old buddy Barry Alvarez running the show up there at the University of Wisconsin. Longtime head football coach and now their athletic director. 0-2 on Brandon Phillips. Barry Alvarez was with us for the first ever BCS game on Fox, and that BCS game was Oklahoma and Boise State. One of the most memorable bowl games of all time. Phillips knocked in the games all they run. This time a bouncer to Lyle Overday, and that's the way we begin the fourth inning. Well, we mentioned that Jay Bruce and Joey Votto have both spent time on the disabled list this year. And they are hoping, CJ, that these guys get closer to the top column than down in that bottom column.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're going to need them. Now, the one thing about Joey Votto, even though he is struggling, he is a presence in that lineup, and so as an opposing pitcher, it gives you something to think about. Even when a guy like him is slumping, because of his style of hitting, you feel like he could bust out of it pretty quickly, provide some protection as well, but certainly the Reds are going to need these guys. Now that everybody is healthy, and we talked about Matt Latos as well, they have the guys to do it. They have the personnel, they have the track records. It's just a matter of now getting everybody consistent, producing on the same page, and this team could roll.
You know, to put it in perspective, Jay Bruce just turned 27 years old. Already has nearly 170 career home runs. He has over 500 runs batted in. He's hit 30 or more home runs, knocked in 97 or more each of the last 3 years. Still so young. But these are the two guys you build your offense around. And because of injuries and or ineffectiveness, when the Reds beat the Dodgers 3 days ago, Bruce and Votto knocked in runs in the same game for the first time since mid-April.
It's hard to believe. It's unbelievable. And those two big bats, that's something you would expect to happen weekly.
There's a 4-pitch walk. That's the second time in the last 5 batters that Gallardo's done that. Well, you brought up an interesting point, I thought, as Ryan Ludwig, who doubled his first time up, makes his way to the plate. In our meeting with Ron Renicky today about, the adjustment of pitchers, and in this case, Gallardo, of going from a guy who's throwing 93, 94, to now almost got a guy who's not throwing nearly that hard. You get some age, you get some innings, you get some pitches under your belt. It's going to happen to a lot of guys.
We've seen it a lot around Major League Baseball. CC Sabathia, Tim Lincecum, guys that have really struggled to pitch with slightly diminished stuff, especially when you used to be a power guy, because at any time in the game you could reach back for that 95 or 96 and leave it up in the zone and blow it by a guy. When you don't have that anymore, you can't do that, because when you go to reach back and it spurts out at 91, it becomes very, very hittable. And so there's an adjustment period. There's a mental adjustment. The ego has to kind of be put in check and say you're not that guy anymore. The command has to be a little bit better within the zone, and that can take some time for guys.
1-1 on Ryan Ludwig.
I feel like Gallardo has embraced the fact that he's more of a contact pitcher. Also because he's had to, but most guys don't, completely get it. I mean, he is at a 94% contact rate of all pitches he throws, all strikes he throws, swinging strikes. That is unbelievably high. Leads all of Major League Baseball, but if you keep guys off balance, it's okay.
Now, one major difference, injuries or not, between the Dusty Baker Reds and the Brian Price Reds comes in the running game. There's that high fastball at 92. 2-2 on Ludwig. And it's not only Billy Hamilton. You look at a guy like Jay Bruce, who's played through knee surgery this year. Bruce is a perfect 7 out of 7 in stolen bases. The Reds rank second in the major leagues in stolen bases.
When I saw that 7 out of 7 for Jay Bruce, I was shocked to think that not only they had 7 stolen bases, but they hadn't gotten thrown out yet. And that's not always about speed, as you know. It's about being a prolific base stealer and understanding reads and jumps and doing your homework on each pitcher and studying their moves. Jay Bruce has done a good job with that. This team is a lot different, and putting pressure on the defense and putting pressure on opposing pitchers by running as much as they have this year.
Dawn swinging his Ludwig, 2 out. MLB TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 12 years. You can visit MLB.com for more details. And fans, why not follow every game with MLB.com and back on your favorite mobile phone or tablet? Get live look-ins, instant replays, download on the App Store, or visit MLB.com today. Those little ones aren't thinking about MLB.com. They're thinking about the cotton candy stand. And a little girl saying to mom there, well, what about the cotton candy?
Almost done with my gum. What do I get next?
I mean, your teenagers still do that to you, right?
Oh, it's nonstop.
There goes Bruce. And he is out at second base to end the inning. 1-0 Cincinnati after 3.5. Part of the order coming up, starting with Ryan Braun. He struck out looking his first time up. Let's take a look at hits by directions, and this is percentage of hits by direction.
And you wonder why he's been a perennial MVP candidate. Guys that can spray the field and that can do it with power are very difficult to pitch against. That means he has very good plate coverage. Hitting balls just off the plate, can hit the ball in, drive it to all fields, and do it with authority. This is pretty much a pitcher's nightmare when you get a guy like this who spreads it around so evenly.
All right, Braun, Lucroy, Gomez against Matt Latos. Second time through the order now. Latos pitching for the first time in a big league game tonight in 2014. 3 innings, 1 hit, and has struck out 4.
That is a good-looking pitch right there. He really tied up Ryan Braun. That is a bad swing. Good fastball with some movement. Looked like a 2-seam fastball, but just really good movement on it. A bad swing from Ryan Braun. Not seeing the ball well off Matt Latos so far.
There you see over these last 2 years his home runs per at-bat. A significant difference. All the numbers.
And you've seen that power come down per at bat, and at the end of the day, it's not a surprise. He's still putting up some pretty good numbers as well.
That ball almost undressed the Cincinnati shortstop Kozar, but he caught it. The Game Changer Profile brought to you by T-Mobile, official sponsor of Game Changers. We were talking about Jonathan Lucroy. Right now, he is the best hitter in this Milwaukee lineup. Look where he ranks among all National Leaguers. Now, not a lot of thunder in there, but batting average, doubles, base hits, multi-hit games. This guy's a good-looking hitter. I wanted to bell to call strike 1-1.
You talk about how good Jonathan Lucroy has been. Major League Baseball fans need to get on this. This guy is an all-star, plays in the smallest market in baseball in Milwaukee, but they need to recognize and start voting for this guy. He has certainly earned it. He's not the big name. Buster Posey, Yadier Molina, some of the best catchers in the National League, but he has been right there with him, not only offensively what he's done, but he's been very good defensively as well.
Well, you know, look, you go back to last year. Last year and this year, Lucroy has been a better offensive player than Buster Posey. You may remember the wheels fell off for Posey from the All-Star break on last year. Now, we know he's an enormously talented player, but Lucroy has been that good. That went off the end of the bat. And Phillips reaches up over his head and makes a play. Oh, my goodness. Phillips flashing the leathers seemingly every night for the Reds.
Well, off the bat, you thought this was going to have a chance to get down. Then you realize trying to drop a pop-up between Brandon Phillips and Billy Hamilton is all but about impossible. And a good jump here by Brandon Phillips. Great read and reach at the end. And Jonathan Lucroy just got stolen a base hit. He didn't hit it hard, but nevertheless, base hit has got him. Matt Latos certainly likes that. Pitchers love good defense.
Well, this is the most airtight defense in all of Major League Baseball. You know, oftentimes that errors statistic can be misleading because some teams, they're just not good athletes and they don't get to many balls. This Cincinnati team, Bruce, maybe the best right fielder in the National League. Billy Hamilton is a guy who, a converted shortstop. Tell you, There's a whole closet full of Gold Gloves in his commercial in the future if he can hit enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look around this defense complete, and there's guys that can root. There are athletes with range that can get around. So you talk about fielding percentage, and a lot of times that's dependent on what kind of balls you can get to. These guys can get the balls, and they're making the plays. Some of the defensive metrics that are out there are not great, but the Cincinnati Reds rank very well, even metrically. And they're not perfect, a lot of those defensive run saves, but the Reds do very well in those categories.
Now Gomez, he knows a thing or two about defense. You brought up earlier, CJ, the 5-tool guy. Carlos Gomez and Jay Bruce have the second most outfield assists over the last 4 years among all National Leaguers, behind Arizona's Gerardo Parra. Parra, a Gold Glove winning outfielder.
He is quietly one of the best defensive outfielders in all of baseball. Doesn't get a lot of play nationally. He is solid out there.
Why the turnaround, though, for Gomez? Just maturity?
I think it's part of it. I think it's playing every day, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer for guys to get it figured out. But he has just absolutely exploded over these last couple of years at age 27 and 28.
Jam shot liner caught by Kozar. Phillips once more flashing his Gold Glove leather. We played 4, 1-0 Reds in front. Having a little fun with his teammate Billy Hamilton. Young guy telling the old guy, I would have got there. Maybe the old guy telling you, I got you covered.
The old guy saying, listen, skinny man, you better watch out because I was coming. Better get out of the way. Once he gets started, he's not stopping.
Well, both of those guys were outstanding football players. Both offered football scholarships to play in the Southeastern Conference. Hamilton at Mississippi State and Brandon Phillips at the University of Georgia.
Well, I think that brings up a really good point about athletes. We're losing them, especially Major League Baseball, but just in sports all around. They want kids to become specialized now at a young age.
Well, you're not wrong.
Coaches tell them to play one sport When a kid is 12, 13, 14 years old, it's ridiculous.
Nice play there by Gomez. Came a long way to get that ball, and it looked like he was the only guy that was going to get that ball. Boy, did he cover some ground.
He covered a lot of ground there, and that can be difficult at times. It falls into a triangle where three guys kind of start to converge on one spot. Carlos Gomez does a nice job of taking over. Scares you sometimes because there's always that potential injury, and good job by Gomez by taking control of the situation.
Now Kozak. Maybe the biggest out of this game for Giovanni Gallardo was Kozart in that second inning. The Reds had already scored a run in the first inning. And the first two reached against him in the second inning. You got Kozart to bounce into the double play, retired the pitcher, and got out of that inning unscathed. And Kozart gone on strikes. 5 of those now for Gallardo. And let's check in back in Los Angeles with our buddy Kevin Burkhardt. Wow is right. We just saw the Giants recently, and CJ, they are concerned about Sergio Romo.
Well, they should be. I mean, he has done it differently than most other closers done. I know you've seen him a bunch with that slider and not the big flat fastball, and you wondered, would that catch up to him? Is he really a closer? Can he be a closer long term? Is he more of a setup guy? And so I think as teams start to see him just a little bit more, you wonder if they're catching up to that slider just a little bit. You don't see too many closers like him. Trevor Hoffman did it for a long time without plus velocity and a great off-speed pitch.
1-2-3 inning. First of the game for Gallardo. His team still trails 1-0. Reminding you that whatever you drive a Firestone. Walk across a bridge in the parking lot. Been pretty quiet for Bernie. Celebrate the new season with Chevrolet. Share your excitement using #TheNew. Big crowd here tonight on this Saturday. Only a few sprinkles of some empty seats in the very upper reaches of the upper deck here at Miller Park on this Saturday night. Starting a little bit earlier than they normally would, about an hour earlier.
I think that works out perfect. Come to the game, still have time to grab a nice dinner before it gets too late.
Yes, indeed. So Matt Latos to face Aramis Ramirez, who has the only hit off Latos tonight. Latos at 49 pitches as we begin the 5th inning. That is a very good number, at least through 4.
And in that last start, he threw, I think it was 81 in the game, and then he went and threw 19 more down in the bullpen to get up to 100. That's what the Reds wanted to see. It'll be interesting to see. He's been so economical, but if there is a hard pitch count in there for him, because even though he did get up to 100, he hasn't done it with this kind of intensity. Now, he's cruising along, but there's still the different kind of adrenaline that comes along with pitching in a major league game that will wear you out a lot quicker than when you're pitching in Pawtucket, which is where his last start was.
1-1 account. Went off the inside corner. People were joking around, knowing Latos. We talked about the situation where 2 rehab starts ago, he felt like he was ready to get up to 100 pitches. That's what they told him. That's where we want you if we're going to activate you and put you on the big league club. And then right around 70 is when he got a cramp in his calf and had to leave the game. Well, he came back to Cincinnati, and they told him, what did we tell you? It's 100 pitches. And Latos was really upset about it. Felt like that he was more than ready to contribute to the major league club. They said, no, you got to go down. Well, when he went to Pawtucket, he's cruising along, as you mentioned, gets to 80, and then a rain delay hits. So that's why he went in the tunnel during the rain delay and threw the additional pitches to get to 100.
Well, you know, a major leaguer on a rehab assignment, if there's a rain delay, it could be 5 minutes. He's not going back out there.
In the air, into left field, and back to the warning track. That one goes before it's hauled in by Ludwig. But boy, CJ, if you're Brian Price, and you've been waiting on this big donkey, as they called him, all year long to get back in that rotation after winning 14 games each of the last 2 years. He was your ace last year. And here you are. It's only 4 1/3 innings, but it's 4 1/3 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball without a walk.
Against a good hitting team. And so that's certainly something that makes Brian Price very happy. They have a little bit more depth now. Tony Cingrani comes out of the rotation. He's now in the bullpen. And so that gives the Reds that depth that you need, because you don't get to the postseason with 5 starters.
Well, without question, the most surprising player, pitcher or position player, in all of Major League Baseball is in that Cincinnati Reds starting rotation right now, and that is Alfredo Simon, who is a very young man, was a starter in the Baltimore Orioles organization, and quite honestly, the numbers were not very good as a starter for Simon. The Reds picked him up off waivers. He pitched in 99 games very effectively out of their bullpen the last 2 years. But when they went to spring training, knowing that Latos was coming off the elbow surgery and then the early knee surgery, Brian Price opened spring training with Alfredo Simon working as a starter. Alfredo Simon leads the National League in wins.
It's that easy, huh? Well, I tell you, you take a chance with the guy when you see that he's had a bad history as a starter, but you know he's been good for you in the bullpen. You hate to give up that good bullpen arm, and you hate to put him back in a spot where he's failed before. And if he goes down that path of failing again, you wonder, can he just go right back in the bullpen and be good? That's not an automatic, so there's risk there. And they took a chance, and he's answered the bell and has done a tremendous job, and he's probably going to find himself on the All-Star team.
1-2 on Chris Davis. Well, you mentioned the All-Star game. Of course, that'll be right here on Fox. Looking ahead to July the 15th. Are you going to the All-Star game? What with you being so busy on Fox Sports 1?
I am now. I just found out
you
the other day
are?
that I am going. Originally,
Wow.
I was not going,
They
but
found it in the budget.
they're going to squeeze me in. I'm going to ride my bicycle there from L.A. No, they're actually going to fly me there. I will be at the All-Star game. Yes, doing some stuff for Fox Sports 1, some hits for Fox Sports Live, and for America's Pregame with Mike Hill and Molly McGrath. And so, yes, I get to make a trip to the All-Star game. Very excited about it.
It's a good city, Minneapolis. That'll be the 15th of July. Of course, Derek Jeter will take the field in his last All-Star game. The coverage will begin at 4:30 on Fox Sports 1. You can see C.J. Nitkowski. There's a reason to dial in.
There's some other good people there you might want to see as well.
Followed by the 2014 All-Star game, 7:30 Eastern on Fox. That ball is hit hard, but Hamilton there. 2 away in the Milwaukee fifth. Well, we look at the balloting thus far. Arenado from Colorado and Tulowitzki on the left side, along with Blackman in the outfield. So 3 Rockies there. Utley and Adrian Gonzalez. Puig is having a great year. And, of course, Giancarlo Stanton and Yadier Molina, the perennial All-Star. Over in the American League, Cabrera, Trout, Bautista. And you have Donaldson, Jeter, Cano, Cabrera. And the DH, of course, they vote in that league. How about Nelson Cruz? Got a late contract from Baltimore, and he's been worth it so far.
Best bargain in baseball by far, and he probably will be when it's all said and done. $8 million for that production, leading all of Major League Baseball in home runs and RBIs. But I want to go back to that National League voting at third base. What a guy in this ballpark right now for the Cincinnati Reds. Frazier deserves probably maybe to be the All-Star this year. He's had a nice year. And he's definitely one of the top 1 or 2 third basemen in all the National League.
Well, we'll give you some of Frazier's, his resume, for lack of a better word, when he comes up second in the Reds' 6th inning. Fly ball. And how about Matt Latos? 5 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball in his 2014 debut. Sponsored by Bayer Back and Body, the official pain reliever of MLB. And by Burger King. Right now, try the new extra long barbecue cheeseburger. There's a cotton candy that little girl was asking Mom about. Now, were you loading your kids up with cotton candy?
That's a regrettable decision. Listen, I understand cotton candy tastes good, but giving that huge bag to a kid, it's not a fun ride home.
No. Or for the next couple hours.
No.
All right, Billy Hamilton has doubled, scored, walked, and was picked off.
My kids know better than to ask me for cotton candy. They go straight to Mom.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they know. They know how to work it.
Wow. They know with Mom in our house there is 0 chance of that happening.
Nice.
Yeah, they got a shot. One and one to Hamilton. And a pulled foul. I had the chance to see the Reds play quite a bit, and you can just see Hamilton that if his first at bat in a game goes well or something good happens, he looks like an entirely different player, confident hitter at the plate. Slow roller here to short. And they throw him out. One away. Well, now it's time for the Pepsi Real Big Things You Need to Know. And this is what you were talking about, CJ, a minute ago.
Absolutely. See that? Home runs, extra base hits, slugging percentage, stolen bases. Those are all good categories, legitimate categories. That resume is strong. And now we still got a little time to go before we get to the All-Star voting closing. But for me, right now, he deserves to be the starting third baseman for the National League.
Make it a real big summer with 3 new flavors of Pepsi made with real sugar. I'll tell you one thing, if Frazier did get to the All-Star game, he would be one of the more spirited personalities for sure at that All-Star game. You mentioned CJ, he is Jersey through and through. His music when they introduce him in Cincinnati is none other than Frank Sinatra. Fly Me to the Moon.
No Bon Jovi, no Bruce.
No.
Maybe a little bit of an old soul.
And he does. He's actually a great singer. And to hear him sing Sinatra is pretty impressive.
Does he do anything bad? Sounds like between what he does on the field, he sings.
Well, I don't know. You might have to ask his wife about that.
The thing I find interesting about him, he's only a 2+ player as far as service time goes. But at least from the outside, it seems like he's taken on somewhat of a leadership role on this team, which a lot of guys with his service time, even if they are everyday players, aren't usually willing to do that kind of thing. I think that also speaks well of his personality. I think that's a little bit of that Jersey Northeast upbringing as well. A lot of times you're not going to fall into that where, hey, I haven't been around, I shouldn't say anything. He certainly seems to have been that guy.
Watch a nasty pitch here by Giovanni Gallardo. We talked so much about Latos tonight because it's his first game of the year. Well, ever since Gallardo got that double play ball in the second inning, the Reds do not have a hit since the second inning.
And 7 strikeouts so far in this game for Gallardo. Whatever that mechanical adjustment was, that mystery one, we're going to work on it and try to find out what it was. But whatever it was, so far between his last start and now so far through this one, it's been working for him.
Well, he's had Joey Votto's number tonight. Got him swinging, got him looking. Votto trying to jump on the first pitch fastball, and he's down 0-1. This has been an anemic Cincinnati offense. There's no other word to describe it. And some could say, well, the injuries are a big part, and they are. With Votto and Bruce, twice Devin Mesoraco's been on the DL. So they've missed some important players. But having said all that, in a third of their games this season, 1/3, they have scored 2 runs or fewer. You have a hard time winning.
Absolutely.
Scoring 2 or fewer.
And you just expect that that's going to change at some point.
Latos into center field, a 2-out single.
There's too many good hitters here. Guys with track records that tells you that should not be the case throughout the entire season. Partially because of injuries, but also partially because guys haven't gotten it done.
That's the first Cincinnati hit since Brian Pena had an infield hit in the second inning. Gallardo's been really good tonight. And we gave you some of the numbers earlier that you know his career numbers against the Cardinals are just abysmal, and they're not really good against the Reds. And if the Brewers want to go toe-to-toe with those two teams, Gallardo's got to start trending, doesn't he, the other way a little bit?
Absolutely. That's always going to worry you if there's teams that you're competing with within your own division that you see often, that one of your top pitchers, your opening day guy, your ace right now, has a hard time with. That's absolutely a legitimate concern. And so far tonight's start, maybe a turn in the right direction for Gallardo. First, the Reds 7-7 over the course of his career with a 4.44 ERA. All those numbers are worse than what his career averages are. And he's faced this team a bunch, obviously because they're in the division. But over the course of his career, he has the second most innings pitched against any one team are the Cincinnati Reds. The Pittsburgh Pirates are first. So there's enough innings there to tell you that's legitimate, enough starts there. It's not a small sample size. He's faced these guys a bunch.
2-2. 2-1, I beg your pardon. Phillips knocked in this game's only run, just as he did in the first inning last night. Tonight, a 2-out run-scoring single, giving him now 26 runs batted in. Into left center field, a base hit. So back-to-back 2-out singles from Votto and Phillips, and Jay Bruce will make his way to the plate. It's the third time now through the batting order for Yovani Gallardo.
Gene Segura trying to get up. Not enough there. He still had about another 1.5 feet to go. Good attempt, though, as a pitcher. You always want your guys at least trying.
You know what happens to guys our age, CJ, when you try that?
You don't get back up?
When one leg comes down and the other one starts going in the air. And I don't mean to lump you in with me.
You may. I'm feeling it.
Ball one to Jay Bruce.
Do a radio show on Saturdays, and a couple of managers that I've talked to Buck Showalter today, and he says, hey, you're interested maybe coming out and still throwing? I said, I could barely play catch with my kids anymore about trying to get up to a competitive level again. It catches up with you really, really quick after you're done playing this game.
Swing and a miss. Well, they had a great ceremony here yesterday before the game as the Brewers unveiled their wall of honor just created this year. And since this franchise moved here to Milwaukee, started here in Milwaukee, and some of the players they introduced yesterday brought back so many memories for so many of these Brewers fans. Whether you're talking about Hammer and Hank Aaron, Robin Yount, Raleigh Fingers, of course Bob Uecker, to more recent players. Fouled away, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Ted Simmons was here. There's Raleigh Fingers, Cecil Cooper, Sal Bando, Jim Colbert, Robin Yount, and of course you. And there's Hammer and Hank. And of course their longtime owner, baseball's commissioner, Bud Selig. Bob Uecker, one of the all-time greats at a lot of things. Line drive, and that's what you talked about the shift.
Protecting against the hard hit ball right there. That's where it works for you. Hit it hard, we're probably going to catch it.
Just saved a run. preparing a microphone for us. So here you have it, our Fox sounds of the game.
I got you, baby. Where you at, Billy? Where you at, Billy? You said nobody can come out here. What's up, Billy? Oh, whatever, dog. Where you at? You ain't fast no more. You lost a step.
You won. That's only a 110.
What you talking about? I live out there, dog. I'm just trying to help you out.
Brandon Phillips always known for having a little bit of fun, but it's good with teammates. You get a guy who's known for his speed, and you go after his one great tool and tease the young man a little bit how it's not as good as he thinks it is. That's a great play. You know what's interesting about that play is we never heard Brandon Phillips call the ball, right? And that's how we realized he did not know he had that until the very end. That's when you always worry about those collisions, those in-between plays. He handled it well.
All right, here we go. Brewers back, bottom of the 6th inning. 1-0. Cincinnati in front. The only run of this game came in the first inning on a 2-out single by Phillips. Latos making his season debut today. And he has been lights out so far.
And filling up the strike zone, 65 pitches for him now, 44 strikes. It's about a 68% clip, and he's feeling very comfortable and confident. And boy, 100 pitches that he threw last week, he may be able to get through an entire game the way he's going right now.
The ground to Votto, and he'll feed Latos in the bag. So Gallardo will bat with one away in the 6th inning.
This ball was hit hard for an 0-2 pitch, and Latos probably wanted to make a better one, but trusting his defense, you and I have already been talking about it. Joey Votto, one of the best over there, and a nice play on that ball.
We mentioned earlier, Giovanni Gallardo. Now, he doesn't have a home run this year, but he has 12 of them in his major league career, and one of them against the man on the mound, Matt Latos. We mentioned the Brewers started this season winning 20 of their first 27 games. Well, ever since then, they have been one game under 500 in almost 50 games. And, you know, Ron Renicky was asked about it after the loss to the Reds here last night, said, you know, you're obviously not okay with it, but are you okay with it? And he said, you know what, I'm fine with it. He said, because we haven't fallen apart. We haven't gone in a 40-game stretch 10-30. He said, now, do I think we're capable? Of course I think we're capable of being better. And I'm pretty confident we're going to get on another good run again soon to offset maybe a game or two under 500.
And they've done themselves a really good job by building that cushion, and that becomes extremely important. And also it kind of helps that the division, everybody else is kind of sputtering a little bit. There's some good teams in there. The Reds, one of them. The St. Louis Cardinals, Pittsburgh Pirates have been a disappointment, but they haven't gotten going yet either. And so they've been able to afford having this stretch at this time of the year. If it happened at the beginning of the year or it happens at the end while other teams are playing well, it sticks out a little more. And I think when he looks at his team, he feels good about what's out there. There is no major injury that's holding him back. There is no major regression of players or guys not performing. They've just lost some games in the stretch. They don't expect that to continue.
3-2 pitch in the air, right center field. Bruce will track it just shy of the warning track. And we've had some great shots tonight of Latos out there on the mound and his reaction. The few instances in this game where Brewers have hit the ball hard or he felt like he made a mistake. We brought up earlier, so young, so talented, so experienced. But he is one ferocious competitor out there on the mound. So now 5 2/3 innings, and we go to the top of the order for the third time, and there's strike one to Jeanette.
The ultimate competitors will do that to themselves. Some of them don't necessarily show it on the outside the way Matt Latos does, but a lot of the greats will do that. They focus sometimes a little bit too much on the things that they do wrong because they expect perfection.
Scooter Gennett has struck out, hit the ball very hard his last time up on a good play by Phillips, who threw him out. This guy's a good-looking young hitter right here, Scooter Gennett. He is just taking that everyday second base job away from Ricky Weeks. And you know, one note on Weeks, in a day and age where when a guy in professional sports loses his job and seemingly 2 or 3 days later they're screaming about wanting to be traded and they want out of town and they're getting a raw deal and all that kind of thing, Ricky Weeks deserves a real tip of the cap about the way he has handled this entire situation. He has been the ultimate professional through all of this for the Brewers.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I thought once we saw what was happening, Gennett taking over, and then how well Ricky Weeks had been playing as of late, he's been swinging the bat well, that maybe the Milwaukee Brewers would be interested in moving him. But when you're winning and you have your sights set on the postseason, you don't really want to move a player that could help you, because if there is an injury to Gennett, that could be a problem.
Right.
And they don't want to not be without Ricky Weeks in case they need him. And like you said, he's done a good job of not making waves during a season that is going very well for the Milwaukee Brewers, because if that was the case, they'd probably try to ship him out pretty quickly.
One ball and 2 strikes. Latos v. Gennett with 2 away. And none on here in the Brewers' 6th inning. The last Milwaukee base runner was the only Milwaukee base runner. That was a 1-out single by Aramis Ramirez in the 2nd inning. Latos retired the first 4 to start the game and is trying to retire the next 14 since that hit.
Well, that's been unbelievable. And you think about Latos declaring himself ready, wanting to get back on the mound, but sometimes you got to protect guys from themselves, and the Reds had a plan. Talked about the 100 pitches and getting there, but even with that, you expect some rust at the major league level, and he has shown none today.
They appeal. No, he did not go around, says Marvin Hudson. Latos wanted that strikeout on that pitch.
These are always tough calls in real time, but a lot of times you expect that third base umpire to nail. Look at Payne, does a good job of trying to sell it. Latos wants it. And as good as he's throwing, he wants every single strike that he thinks he has.
We get a look at Brian Price to the left, his first-year pitching coach, Jeff Peco, who, of course, took his job. And then former World Series hero, Jay Bell, the bench coach to Brian Price. And again, Latos trying to get a call, and that was off the inside corner.
Well, that looked like a good pitch. Pena does a nice job of sticking it. Didn't move his glove much at all. And strike 4.
This would be the 10th pitch in this at bat. 3-2. And Gennett hanging in there. This is a kind of at bat as you start looking forward that can cost you an inning in the game if you're Matt Latos.
Absolutely. That is why every strike counts to a pitcher, and it seems when we see a game like this and he's cruising along and he doesn't get that 1-2 check swing, and it probably was a check swing, those things will bother you because they will come back to haunt you sometimes. And you think about that. I remember facing Cal Ripken probably for the first time in my career, and I accidentally split the plate with an 0-2 fastball. It was a strike. It was right down the middle, and I was a rookie, and he's Cal Ripken Jr., and I got upset and all worked up about it, and he gets a base hit. on the next pitch, and Brad Osnos, who was the catcher, came out to me and he goes, "Hey, Durwood Merrill wants you to know that he missed that 0-2 pitch." I'm like, well, what good does that do me, man? I just let him a base hit. I had Cal Ripken struck out, and instead he gets a base hit off of me. So every strike does matter, even though it was an unintentional strike that I threw. You'd like to get every call. You're not going to get every call.
And you can tell the frustration may be settling in with Latos here a little bit. I mean, he felt like on the check swing that Jeanette went around. He felt like on the next fastball that was on the inside corner was not called. So now 13 pitches in this at bat. And it's capped off by a double down the left field line. What an at bat by Scooter Jeanette. A 13-pitch at bat ends 13 in a row retired by Latos.
Well, this was an outstanding at bat, just like you said, and you can see why Ron Renicky likes Scooter Jeanette so much. A fastball up and away, and after that long battle, Scooter not trying to do too much, takes that pitch, lines it nicely down the left field line in a 2-out double, and the Milwaukee Brewers have a runner in scoring position for the first time today.
Todd Frazier initially came over to have a lengthy chat with Latos, who was visibly livid on the mound with the home plate umpire. And that is the MO on Latos at times during his career. It's very emotional out there on the mound. He'll get upset by umpires' calls. And perhaps Brian Price, sensing a little more talking to, sent his pitching coach Jeff Pico out there to visit Latos.
Well, that's probably been the most intense at-bat that he has had, as we see some action now in the Reds bullpen. And so you want to check in with him, because he has pretty much been on cruise control his entire time. Exactly like you said, you know he's a guy that can be emotional. You want to make sure he stays calm. That pitch count has now climbed up to 85. And because he's coming off the disabled list, you have to think that if he finishes his inning without trouble, that may be it.
That pitch count was at 72 before that at bat began with Scooter Jeanette. So now the tying run in scoring position for Ryan Braun. Strike one.
And that's
Braun
why that
struck out his first time up. Pardon me.
No problem. My fault. It's why it's so important working the count when you can and having a bat like that. That probably cost Matt Latos an extra inning when it's all said and done. Had he finished Jeanette on that 1-2 pitch, he's going back out there for the 7th inning. Now he's probably not.
0-1 the count on Ryan Braun, tying run at second base. And a high drive. Deep right center. Hamilton at the wall. He got it and the inning is over. The deepest, very deepest part of Miller Park. In the left center field and right center field corner. And Hamilton to end the inning. We're back after a word from your local sponsor. in the dugout, and after a lengthy discussion, obviously his night is over, as you suspected it would be, C.J. Nitkowski.
It certainly does appear that way, and he did a great job. But now it's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out. You get into that bullpen just an inning earlier because of the at-bat by Scooter Gennett. We'll see if that comes back to haunt the Reds.
And the Reds are in a little bit of an interesting dilemma. Here, there's good stuff there. Pitcher and catcher. You know all about that relationship, C.J. But, you know, the Reds are in an interesting dilemma here. They have played so many close games all year. 26 one-run games. But especially here over the last 3 days. They have used their closer, Aroldis Chapman, for the first time all year long in 3 consecutive games. And Jonathan Broxton, who is having an all-star-like season, has only given up 1 run all year. They had to use him for an inning and 2/3 to seal a tight one against the Dodgers 2 days ago. And he worked an inning here last night.
Well, this will be interesting to see how this plays out. And sometimes guys are asked to come out of the roles a little bit because your closer or your setup man needs a day off. I was able to steal a save 1 year. I only had 3 in my career, but Billy Wagner and Doug Henry, our closer and setup man, were down. And I got a chance to get in there, and Larry Durker left me in for 3 innings in a 1-run, 2-run ball game and got my first save. That's how you get them sometimes. And that's what it's going to take. So we could very well see the depth of that Reds bullpen tested tonight.
Well, there's that 1-2 punch you alluded to earlier. The possibility now that Latos is back and healthy and ready to roll. Johnny Cueto has been really beyond description. And there's strike 3 call to Ryan Lovell. Meanwhile, Giovanni Gallardo's been mighty good tonight. That is his 8th strikeout. Time out for our game summary by Moto G from Motorola. Latos in his first game this year, 2 hits, 2 base runners. That's it, didn't walk about it. Brandon Phillips knocked in the game's only run. That came in the opening inning. The Brewers on that double a moment ago by Gennett, their first runner in scoring position all night. And Gallardo has been terrific. He's walked 2, punched out now 8, and allowed 1 run on 6 hits. Ryan Pena 1 of 2. Gallardo's still got some life on that fastball.
He does. He looks good. And like we said, this has now been back-to-back starts for him. Velocity still very good. Not what it used to be. He's down a couple of miles an hour, over the kind of the height of his career, as Ron Renicky had told us prior to the game, but he certainly feels comfortable using it.
That one in the air right field. Vaughn is there for the second out. We check in with Kevin Burkhardt back in Los Angeles. Hi, Kevin. All right, Kevin, thank you very, very much. Now, you're out there a lot in L.A., working out of there. You don't make your home there, but you're out there and all your work on Fox Sports 1, 2 down for Kozar. For a lot of us who are back in the Eastern time zone, maybe some in the Central, we hear that name, Albert Pujols, in the National League Central. It still gives everybody, the fear of God, thinking about what Pujols used to do. What have you seen from him this year? I know home run number 16, but what have you seen out of him?
Well, he's not running very well. If you saw that play the other night with Cespedes, the hips, and I've noticed this probably a good 6 weeks ago that he's not running as well as anticipated. He had that plantar fasciitis last year. Got it taken care of. We thought he's going to be fine. The legs are going to be good. He certainly does not run the way that he used to. He's also 34 years old, as you were alluding to earlier. As you get up there, none of us run nearly as well as we did. So that's been a little bit of an issue, but he's swinging the bat okay. That average hovering around 259 hasn't quite been the same. On-base percentage is way down, so there's still some pop in the bat. But Albert Pujols right now, not exactly the same guy, but he gets to hide a little bit, even though he has a big contract. Josh Hamilton is there. Mike Trout is there. The other guys to pick him up, and Hamilton's been very good this year. So we're seeing regression that was probably anticipated by most with Albert Pujols, maybe just a little bit earlier than we expected.
We saw action now in both bullpens. Gallardo's spot, he just hit in the 6th inning, and there's a weak ground ball to short, fielded by Segura. Giovanni Gallardo, 105 pitches, has allowed 1 run through 7, but he's down 1-0. Sponsored by Budweiser, designated driver, and enjoy the great times. And by the new Samsung Galaxy S5. The next big thing is here. And here we are at Miller Park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A 1-0 lead for the visiting team. You know, we've talked about the injuries to this Reds team a little bit, CJ, but the area where they were hit the hardest by far is in their bullpen. And that has been the #1 strength of this Reds team over the last 4 or 5 years, is that bullpen. And they began the year with both their setup men, Sean Marshall, Jonathan Broxton, DL. Aroldis Chapman, DL. Alfredo Simon, their next best reliever, to the rotation for Latos. So a lot of guys that they didn't figure to be in that bullpen. Well, since everybody's now back healthy, they're starting to come together again.
Yeah, and you talk about the struggles of the bullpen, 13th in the National League in ERA at a 3.9 coming in tonight. There's 8 blown saves in there, and that doesn't mean the closer. People get confused, but that's basically any reliever that comes in a save situation after the 6th inning and blows the lead. So that's been a little bit of an issue for them. Your depth gets tested. It does in bullpens. You hear it all the time. There is not one team at the deadline that isn't looking to add an arm to that bullpen, because so much can happen year to year, even month to month at times. And you saw it here in Cincinnati, and like you said, now if everybody gets healthy, they have the arms where they could absolutely roll. But I'm sure they'll be looking. If they're in contention, and I expect them to be, I got to believe that they'll be looking come deadline time, if not earlier.
You know, Doug Melvin, the general manager of the Brewers, has said once, he said it 1,000 times, the hardest thing to get a read on is your bullpen from one year to the next. And the pitcher Logan Andrusik, who's now in the game, is the perfect example of that for the Reds, as he's fallen behind the first batter in the inning, 3-0. His first 3 years in the big leagues, pitching 63 games or more, ERAs of 3.6, 3.2, 3.4. Now there you see the numbers since everybody came back on the active roster. But this 7th inning is the one hole in the Reds bullpen right now with Alfredo Simon being in the rotation. The 7th inning was Alfredo Simon's inning if they needed it. The Reds have not lost a game this year when they're leading at the end of 7, not one. And that's because of Broxton and Chapman. But last night in the 7th inning, they gave up 4 runs and blew a 5-1 lead. And here you bring in Andrusik, and he walks the first batter in the inning.
A lot of times the 7th inning and the 8th inning, there's bigger outs than the 9th inning. And that conversation has happened is, yes, it's nice to have a shutdown closer, but sometimes you'd like to see your best arm out there more maybe in the middle of the game. And so with a 1-run lead for Andrusik, he has to go through 3, 4, 5 of this Milwaukee lineup right now. So he has a tough task at hand. The game could actually unfold here as opposed to the 9th inning potential.
Andrusik is not allowed a run. As there's a liner into right field, a base hit. So here come the Brewers for the first time all night long. They have 2 base runners on in the same inning. In fact, they have as many base runners in this 7th inning as they've had in the entire game against Matt Latos. We have a Ramos Ramirez, and the Reds have action in their bullpen. As they have a left-hander up and throwing, the Reds made the decision earlier today. The starter, Tony Cingrani, would go to their bullpen. The other left-hander, along with Cingrani down there, is Manny Parra, the former Brewer. And, of course, the closer Chapman is a left-hander. Sean Marshall back on the DL for a second time. Here's Ramirez. 2 on, nobody out. In the air, center field. Hamilton prepares himself for the throw. Here comes Lucroy. Here comes a throw, and it's cut off. Good aggressive base running by the Brewers.
It was good base running, but I would not surprise. A couple things here. First of all, you have to throw that ball to second base because you're going to have no play at third, so you're just allowed to go ahead run. To go ahead and go in scoring position right there. Billy Hamilton, not an experienced outfielder, but I kind of wonder just a little bit if Jonathan Lucroy left early. Let's see, got a good look at it on the replay. No, I guess not. He did a good job. He played it well. But the mistake there is Billy Hamilton trying to throw out Lucroy at third. He's not going to do that. And that's the experience of a guy who has not played a ton of outfield in his career, of knowing that that throw has to go to second base. Keep the double play intact, at least, but also, more importantly, keep the go-ahead run out of scoring position.
Well, now a decision for the Reds. Do you go ahead and pitch to Davis, or do you put him on? Apparently they made that decision. They're going to try and come after Davis. Tying run at third, go-ahead run at second in the Brewers' 7th inning. Ball 1. Andrusik started this inning walking the very first batter without a strike. Now this Brewer team, this is a big reason on how they're doing it. They're coming from behind, winning late. It's a 1-0 game with 1 out. And a ground ball to short. Cozart will play to first. And the game is tied.
Good job there by Chris Davis, realizing that the infield is back. Not trying to do too much, knowing the ground ball is going to tie this game, and that is exactly what he did. Outside of hitting one to the corners, the first and third, any other ground ball is going to get your runner in.
Well, that's going to be all for Andrusik, as CJ pointed out earlier. A blown save can occur in the 6th or 7th inning. And Andrusik has just given up a win for Matt Latos. Great walk-offs are waiting at foxsports.com/Budweiser. Grab some buds. The one-time, long-time Milwaukee Brewer who came to the Reds and had an outstanding year last year, not as effective so far this year, is Manny Parra. They will take down Lyle Overbay, and they will send up Ricky Weeks as a pinch hitter for him. That is the go-ahead run in a 1-1 game here in the bottom of the 7th inning, leading out there at second base.
You talked about his unselfishness as a player, and what a great value this is to have a guy like this coming off the bench, especially in a year where he's enjoying some offensive success.
Of course, Weeks, a one-time All-Star, former #1 draft pick, signed a big contract here for a long-term extension. And almost overnight, he wasn't the same player. Eventually last year losing his job to Jeanette. But as we brought up earlier, he has certainly conducted himself like a champ through all of it. 0-1 the count. And that one gets away from Pena. And Gomez now 90 feet away with a go-ahead run.
This is going to be a tough pitch to block, but you see Pena, he tries to backhand that ball. He actually should have been able to keep that ball in front of him. Now that I see that replay, and I think he'd be the first one to tell you he got a little bit lazy there as he backhands that, as opposed to turning the glove the other way, dropping both knees, squaring that ball up, and keeping it in front of you. Carlos Gomez is going to score on any base hit anyway with 2 outs, but the wild pitch is now in play, or ground ball error.
Base hit by Ricky Weeks, and the Brewers have taken the lead.
Well, right on time, just like we said, having a bat like Ricky Weeks, you talked about the former All-Star, former star player. You get to bring him off the bench. It's a pitch right down the middle, slips as he hits it. Make sure you get the first base so that run actually counts. But a nice job by Ricky Weeks in a big situation. And go back to the Scooter Gennett at bat for me. Matt Latos is not pitching this inning because of that at bat, even though no runs resulted in it last inning.
That's a great point. Ground ball to short. It all began with a walk, then a single. And the Brewers score twice and lead by a run as we go to the 8th. And balloting results, and good news for Brewers fans and for Carlos Gomez. He is now one of the 3 leading vote getters among the outfielders. And David Wright has jumped in front of Arenado down at third base. So you're up to the very, very latest, and the balloting continues either in the ballpark or at MLB.com until July the 3rd. All-Star Game Tuesday, July 15th, 7:30 Eastern, right here on Fox. Mark Reynolds will take over for Lyle Overbay at first base. And now taking over on the mound. He was the Brewers pitcher of the month in May as a reliever that's not their closer. Left-hander Will Smith, he came over in that offseason deal from Kansas City for Norichika Aoki.
How often do you hear teams that struggle to find left-handed relief? The Angels right now have no lefty in their bullpen, but here are the Milwaukee Brewers with 4 left-handers in their bullpen. Tom Gorzelani got activated today off the disabled list. He makes their 4th, but Will Smith and also Zach Duke have been solid on the left side out of the bullpen for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, they're very excited about Smith, and you can certainly understand why. Chris Heisey, the pinch hitter for the Reds, and he's down a strike.
You always think about splits when you look at left-handers. Smith has dominated lefties, 132 batting average against, but he's done a very respectable job against righties as well. 250 against right-handers this year.
Right-hander J.J. Hoover throws in the Reds bullpen. Brewers leading by a run. And now quickly 1-2 is Smith ahead of Heisey. Ball down and in. Talked about these Brewers and how they've been coming back, winning games late. They were down 5-1 going into the 7th inning last night, scored 4 times. They were down 1-0 going into the 7th inning tonight.
Chris Heisey now is asking for instant replay. And I actually thought the same thing. When that ball was thrown, it sounded like it might have hit him in the toe. He's saying it's did. You can't see it from there. Check on this side here and see if this ball hits his right toe as it comes down. And I don't think it did. I don't think it did.
Doesn't look like it.
And Chris Heisey didn't react. That's part of the problem. You have to react a little bit if you're going to try to get a call from an umpire. And now Ryan Price is having the conversation and trying to get that replay. It's so different now with instant replays. You see players initiate replay. As Chris Heisey does it, although he took a little while to react. We've seen guys do it in the field. At times when there's a tag, whether the call goes for the runner or for the defender, they'll try to initiate replay by signaling to their manager, no, I got him, I got him. It's been a big impact on the game instant replay has this year.
Breaking ball is in the dirt. 3-2 now on Heisey. Payoff pitch to the leadoff man here in the Reds 8th. And a tapper. Ramirez bare hands and got him. What a play by Aramis Ramirez.
You see Ramirez on this play. He did not panic at all, but he realized pretty quickly it was going to have to be a barehanded play. He understands the timing of a runner like Heisey and what he's going to have to do to make that play. Major League Baseball players make barehanded plays look so easy on television. That is not an easy play. Even though it was a nice hop, you still have to catch it clean with your bare hand. If he catches that with his glove on the exchange, the time that takes, he's probably not going to get high Z.
Well, the MLB Fan Cave is back. Some of baseball's biggest stars scheduled to visit and appear in Fan Cave videos. Follow at MLB Fan Cave on Twitter and like the MLB Fan Cave on Facebook. Carlos Gomez stopped in just before this series was underway. Taping the off the back segment. Oh, and 1 to Billy Hamilton. And there's a high fly ball down the left field line. A long run for Davis. And Billy Hamilton plays long ball for only the 3rd time this year. The first time as a right-handed batter. And he has tied this game at 2.
Well, is that what you expected to happen right there? Of all the guys in this lineup that had the chance to hit that solo home run to tie the game, Billy Hamilton certainly near the bottom of that list. And it was a high one, too. He got all of it for Billy Hamilton. We know he doesn't have big power. Hitting just 182 this year against left-handed pitching. Chris Davis just watches this one. That's pretty high up the wall for a guy like Billy Hamilton from the leadoff spot. And that at-bat was actually the first time he did not lead off an inning. He's led off the inning in his first 3 at-bats, which is rare. You just don't see that very often.
Swing and a miss by Todd Frazier. He's had a quiet game. Hamilton's been on base 3 times tonight. A double, a walk, a ground out to short, and now a home run to tie the game in the 8th inning after the Brewers had just taken the lead in the 7th.
And as good of a year as Will Smith is having, that's the first home run he has allowed this season.
Swinging a foul ball back out of play. Smith has been up and down the last 2 years prior to the trade. He was exclusively a starting pitcher. Minor leagues, major leagues, until Kansas City brought him to the big league club last year. He pitched in 19 games, only 1 of them as a starter. I think this crowd is in absolute shock over that home run. You mentioned Smith had not allowed one, and Hamilton not known for having a lot of pop in that bat. And gone swinging Frazier. 3rd time he has struck out tonight. 2 away in the inning.
Todd Frazier having a rough day, but this pitch right here just completely handcuffed him. He ends up swinging that bat with one hand. Completely fooled on that Will Smith off-speed pitch.
Now Joey Votto, 1 of 3, struck out swinging, struck out looking, singled into center field. Now Votto only has 6 home runs this year. 5 of his 6 homers have come off left-handed pitching.
And those power numbers against left-handed pitchers, probably not as surprising as maybe most left-handed hitters. Joey Votto is a guy who keeps the bat in the zone for a really long time, can hit the ball to all fields. And so though he is a little bit weaker against left-handers in his career from the power standpoint, it doesn't surprise me. Those lefties are so difficult to face as a left-handed pitcher. I've done it for years. Those guys that can stay in the zone, hit the ball from left center to right center, always the toughest outs. I don't mind. Give me the guy, the big dummy who's swinging as hard as he can and spinning out of the zone. Those guys you can pitch to because if you execute, they're going to pull off the ball. It's the Joey Vottos, the Ichiro types, those kind of left-handed hitters that really create havoc for left-handed pitching.
Good looking breaking ball there by Smith. 2-2.
And that's what makes this such a fun battle. A guy like Will Smith, who's dominated lefties at 132. See Joey Votto, both feet in the air. He thought that ball was going to hit him. And you just wonder if he's setting him up to try to get him to throw that breaking ball again, or if Joey Votto was really fooled. Good hitters will do that. They'll overreact to a pitch, trying to get you to throw it again.
Well, with a fastball in the outside corner, and Votto has words with Brian O'Nora. But Billy Hamilton stuns this Miller Park crowd with a game-tying home run.
Hiya.
G from Motorola, and by the makers of One A Day Men, the official multivitamin of Major League Baseball. Mark Reynolds, we told you, came on defensively, part of a double switch. So he will lead off batting in the 9 spot. And the Reds go to their bullpen and bring on a young man who was sensational a year ago and has really had a tough time here in 2014, and that's J.J. Hoover.
I've wondered about him this year and his struggles. You talked about the great year he had last year. He was asked to step it up a little bit because of the injuries and go into a later inning role. And that is not for everybody. And I'm not saying that was the case and that not that he can't do it. But they wanted him to close at the beginning of the year, and that just really was kind of a disaster for him. And now that he's back in his role because this team is healthy, hasn't quite been the same guy. And you're kind of hoping, at least for Reds fans, that he can recapture what he was last year as a very valuable 7th inning guy to get you to your setup man and then eventually your closer.
To give you an idea, J.J. Hoover went 2 months without allowing a run last year. From June the 13th until August the 19th. 23 appearances spanning 30 innings. And he's 2-2 on Reynolds. Reynolds, of course, a big slugger for all those years with the Arizona Diamondbacks as their regular third baseman. I'm not sure he liked that called strike.
Well, I understand why Joey Votto didn't like it. I thought he had a pretty good argument. Left-handed pitchers against left-handed hitters will sometimes get that call a couple inches off the plate.
95-mile-per-hour heat to blow away Reynolds, leading off the inning for J.J. Hoover. Let's go to our Fox Sounds of the Game with Brandon Phillips.
So tell me this. What's your real name?
Ryan.
What's wrong with Ryan? I like Ryan.
I used Scooter as an alias when I was young.
Okay.
I thought I was going to get arrested. My mom took me to the police station.
Oh my gosh, never mind. I got the mic on. You're scaring me with that.
Now we're going to follow this story. A lot of Brewer fans have heard this story, but he's gone by Scooter since he was a young kid watching the show Muppet Babies. The first used the nickname as an alias, as he mentioned, to a police officer because his mother brought him down to the police station to scare him because he would not put on his seatbelt.
Oh, my. Really?
So
I like
there
that.
you go.
Good job, Mom. Your kid's not going to listen. Scare him into listening. Love it. Look where it's gotten him.
Well, he was a guy you pointed out at the time. There's a pop-up, shallow center. Hamilton cannot get it. Runner coming into second base. And he is safe with a double. Boy, look how far Hamilton came in to attempt to get that ball in relation to the infield. Jeanette has doubled now in each of his last 2 times up.
This was a good breaking ball from Hoover. Jeanette didn't hit it very hard, just enough. And Billy Hamilton, talk about the range. I mean, look as he's diving. You think he'd have no chance. And he still almost gets a glove on it. And Jeanette, he does not even pause. I mean, right away he knows. A little bit of a pause right there, but sensing that double as soon as he sees that Billy Hamilton kick that ball away. A lot of guys hit that little bleeder, and they'll kind of jog out of the box knowing either it's going to get caught or it's a single. As a young player in this league, you cannot do that. Nice
now
job.
Braun, and it's in the air. Right field, Bruce to the wall, goodbye.
What did we say earlier as we were showing that spray chart for Ryan Braun and how he could use all fields and that he can do it with power? And he jumps on a first pitch from J.J. Hoover, sees an opportunity after that double, knowing he may have been shaken a little bit, knowing that he's got the potential to go ahead, run, and score in position. Very nice job by Ryan Braun as he jumps on that pitch from Hoover.
So Ryan Braun hit his 10th home run of the year. And what a time to get it, breaking a 2-2 game in the 8th inning.
Just a fastball up over the plate. Braun seemed like he really had a plan there right away. Kept the hands in nicely, drove that ball in the right field.
So this could theoretically be, of course, depending on how it goes in the top of the 9th inning. But this could be another one of those games for the Brewers that we talked about a little while ago where they get a win in what would be their final at bat.
We know how good this lineup can be at times, and it's deep. And there's guys that can do a lot of things, and boy, Scooter Jeanette has been so good at the top. We've seen what he can do today. When you go deep in that lineup, there are some tough outs through the middle of it and getting surprise performances from guys like Jonathan Lucroy, who's up there right now. This team has a lot of fight in them, and they've caught really all of Major League Baseball by surprise as far as what they've done this year.
And now Will Smith, who gave up that game-tying home run to Hamilton, is in line for a win. Latos on foul ground for the second out. Well, Francisco Rodriguez, their closer, is ready to roll. He was thrown a little while ago. Now, Rodriguez was the loser in the game here last night. Went to the top of the 9th inning, and Ron Winicky brought in his closer in a tie game at home. There's a ground ball which will end the inning. But Jeanette with a Bloom double, and on the very next pitch, Ryan Broy the other way, giving the Brewers a 4-2 lead headed for the ninth. Action. Baseball night in America. Some will see the Braves and the Nationals, others the Tigers and the Indians, some will see the Pirates and the Cubs. And then late out west, the Rangers and the Angels over on Fox Sports 1. So our MLB doubleheader begins Saturday 7 Eastern on Fox and then continues at 10 Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Francisco Rodriguez got his second loss of the year here last night, allowed 2 hits, a run, and a walk in 1 inning. But he has a 2-run lead tonight in the 9th. And a fastball in there, strike. Already 8 seasons of 20 or more saves. Rodriguez 15th on the all-time Major League Baseball's saves list.
And a guy, Tom, that they were not anticipating as closing. They didn't sign him to be a closer. Jim Henderson was supposed to be the guy, but there's been an injury to him, and all K-Rod has done is stepped up. Gotten 20 saves so far this season to lead all of Major League Baseball.
20 of 22 save opportunities is Francisco Rodriguez. He was wondering where that pitch missed. There's been a lot of barking on both sides tonight.
That's a good looking pitch at the knees. Good movement by Francisco Rodriguez.
There's a high fly ball, straight away center. Will back up Gomez to the track with room. You know, I want to go to something that you pointed out at the time. And we'll never know. I mean, obviously, we'll never know. But the at-bat by Scooter Gennett in this game in the 6th inning. Matt Latos had retired 13 straight batters. He had only allowed 1 base runner, had walked a batter. He got ahead 1-2. There was a check swing where Latos felt he went around. It was called a ball. The next pitch was a fastball on the inside corner. Again, that Latos and Pena thought was strike 3. It wasn't. It turned into a 13-pitch at-bat for Gennett. And as you pointed out at the time, you thought it would cost Latos the chance to maybe pitch an additional inning.
I think without a doubt it cost him that opportunity. He would have finished that inning around 72 pitches. Instead, he goes 85 to get through that 6th inning. At that point, you have to take him out. This is first game back. And so you get into that bullpen an inning earlier, and we've now seen what can happen when you do that. That absolutely affected this game, even though Scooter Gennett did not score on that double. It was a great at-bat. Nothing happened. There was no runs that resulted in it, and the Reds were still winning at the end of the inning. But it was an absolute game changer, and he's had a really nice day here, especially those 2 last at-bats where he's doubled the both.
Strike 2 call, a fastball at 91 miles per hour from Rodriguez. Brewers 2 outs away from evening this series at a game apiece. We mentioned all the games these two teams still have left against one another. This is only the 6th time they have played. The Reds have won 4 of the first 5. So they'll have 13 more games to go this year.
And plenty of times of seeing Francisco Rodriguez, which is pretty likely. The thing that amazes me about him is he's only 32 years old. He made his major league debut when he was 20. We look at him as a guy who's been around for a long time. We're talking about career accolades. He's still got a lot of good years potentially left in that arm.
There's strike 3 called, and now it's a Red who's complaining. I tell you, it's been both sides giving it to Brian O'Nora here tonight.
Well, at first glance, this one seemed a little bit off the plate, and absolutely, as you see, Lucroy, in the way that he catches that ball, not a lot of movement, but he had to come off the plate to get it. Ron Renicky talked about it before the game. He is so good. His hands are so good at giving the umpire a good look, and not so much that he's cheating, but he just catches that ball so still. You're going to get more strikes called when you can do that as a catcher, even if the ball's off the plate.
Mentioned the Brewers trying to even this series at a game apiece. They have not lost a series in the last 7 which they have played. And a pitch on the way, and it's down and in.
I'd said it earlier that Nelson Cruz will be, probably when the season is over, the best bargain in baseball in that 1-year deal for $8 million. We'll put Francisco Rodriguez in that category as well. If he continues to have a season anything close to this, he's making just $3.2 million this year. When you think about what closers make, that's a phenomenal number for the Brewers. It's working out very well for them.
Roger Bernardina batting for Ryan Ludwig. 2-1 to the pinch hitter Bernardina. Two and two.
That's a good-looking fastball right there from Rodriguez. The thing that he does so well, he's got very good command. There's not an overpowering fastball there. We've seen him at 90 to 92, but he can live at the knees, and he has a great split changeup that he throws below the zone. So difficult for guys to lay off, and you wonder now, as he tries to finish out this game, especially with the lefty, if we'll get to see that changeup.
Foul, and still 2-2 on Bernardino.
And that was it right there. That one actually cut back over the plate a little bit. A lot of times in a 2-2 count, especially with a 2-run lead here in the 9th inning, you want to throw a strike here. You're trying to finish the at-bat. Right now on this pitch, you don't want to go 3-2, where you're most likely going to throw a quickie and give the guy a chance to hit the ball out of the ballpark or hit it hard somewhere.
I got to think we're going to see a fastball away now.
Ground ball to Segura, and the Brewers come from behind late. They were trailing 1-0. They took a 2-1 lead. They gave up the 1-run lead and get the 2-run home run by Ryan Braun. But you can book it. Ron Renicky will be talking about Scooter Gennett shortly.
And Giovanni Gallardo as well. Gallardo as well. He had a great game, back-to-back solid games for him. You see the home run here from Braun, but outstanding game by Gallardo and a much-needed start. 2 in a row now for him.
That is the King play of the day, brought to you by Burger King. Braun snapping the 2-2 tie. And the Brewers continue rolling right along in this National League Central Division. They get the game back like they lost to the Reds last night. With 2 home runs hit in tonight's game. A total of $28,000 raised for prostate cancer research. To make a donation, you can go online to homerunchallenge.org. 4-2, Brewers win it. Smith over Hoover. Rodriguez the save.